What's up, fight fans? Mademan here. Y'all know how I get down. We talking boxing, man. What up to the fam? What up to everybody in Mademan's boxing form? Hey, look, man. So the thing is this. So I'm looking over here on social media, man, and I'm looking at Oscar De La Hoya. And Oscar De La Hoya is on social media, and it looks like he's making a play for some of the PBC fighters. And we know what's going on currently with Premier Boxing Champions and their current situation with them looking for a network and a home. It's being rumored around that they're talking with Amazon and they're talking with Netflix, and nothing has been reported as to where PBC may or may not land. So we're just all waiting and seeing. But however, Oscar De La Hoya is trying to make a place to some of the fighters. It seems as if a lot of fighters didn't get no dates this year. A lot of fighters got left in the cold. And a lot of fighters perhaps does not know when their next payday may come, given the current uncertainty around Premier Boxing Champions. And so Oscar De La Hoya is making a play to the fighters. And he's letting it be known, hey, and he put on his social media, attention PBC fighters, without a promoter contract, call my headquarters and let's make some good fights happen. Everybody knows, man, that a lot of the Premier Boxing Champion fighters are not locked in exclusive contracts with promoters. They're not, like, say, signed to a top rank promotion or a matchroom promotion. They're pretty much their own entities over there, and they do mostly work on fight by fight basis with a lot of promoters. Al Heyman has been known to use several promoters over the years, his main one being Tom Brown, fight fans. But however, he's used many promoters over the years to usher in a lot of his fights, And so, yeah, man, it's known that that's been the case. We know that when Eddie Hearn first got on with DAZN and he had reportedly $1 billion to play with, the first thing that he made a play for was what? The PBC fighters, because once again, they are not locked in exclusive contracts with promoters. So Oscar De La Hoya trying to get these fighters, man, and in his case, more so trying to get back these fighters, because most of the fighters that fight under Premier Boxing Champions, at least a lot of their older ones, are all like Oscar De La Hoya's former fighters, especially a lot of their bigger names and bigger stars. Fighters like Deontay Wilder, fighters like Errol Spence Jr., fighters like Keith Thurman, fighters like Sean Porter at the time. I mean, many fighters, Danny Garcia, I mean, you named it. All of the who's who fighters over the years that Premier Boxing Champions have had, well, these were all former Golden Boy promoted fighters. And so Oscar De La Hoya's case, he's on pretty much get back, man, making a play to try to bring some of his fighters back home, everybody. And so this is what he's posting on social media. And he's also letting it be known to some of the fans that he's replying to that, hey, every single fighter at PBC has no promotional contract. Too complicated to explain because you all know about boxing. I mean, he's kind of right about that. That's always been the PBC way. That's always been the way that Al Heyman prefers his business model. And that's a true fact. And that was also one of the main undoings of Oscar De La Hoya and Golden Boy when he had his fighters relieved off him by Al Heyman and Richard Schaefer. Well, if we remember the story well, it all started with Richard Schaefer, current promoter, former Swiss banker, but during that time was the CEO of Golden Boy Promotions, the only CEO for Golden Boy during that time. And so what Richard Schaefer did while he was overseeing Golden Boy, all of the fighters that were currently exclusively assigned to Golden Boy, their contracts were coming to an end. And instead of re-signing them back to Golden Boy exclusively, Richard Schaefer allowed those fighters to pretty much be free agents. And by coincidence, Al Heyman was the one that was moving through that Golden Boy stable, signing fighter after fighter to his managerial / advisor thing. And he was pretty much guiding the careers of these fighters. And you got to remember, man, Al Heyman had a track record of success. Remember, he was working with Floyd Mayweather during that time. Floyd Mayweather guided him to so many different deals and so on and so forth. This is why Floyd is so invested with PBC. In the early days, I mean, it was Floyd's name that was opening doors to Golden Boy, doors to different networks like Showtime. And him, and Steven Espinoza, as well as Richard Schaefer. I mean, these guys were all working in some sort of like circle within the Golden Boy company. And meanwhile, Oscar De La Hoya, his eye wasn't even on the ball. He was off living the wild life and just enjoying things. He got money coming his way. He's just happy the way things flowing at the time. While the whole time he got a little circle within his company conspiring pretty much against him. And so given that these fighters ain't have no exclusive contracts no more, shoot, Al Heyman started to make life a little hard for Oscar De La Hoya. And so a lot of the fights that Oscar thought he could make with ease started to become a problem. And instead of just Oscar just kind of waving a magic wand like most of the promoters do, when they want to fight, they pretty much get it done, like Eddie does with Matchroom and Bob does with Top Rank. Well, Oscar couldn't do that because Al Heyman was kind of checking him at the door. And it became a headache to make a lot of fights. And a lot of those fighters wasn't fighting each other. Mainly, as we said, because Al Heyman was kind of blocking a lot of those fights. And pretty much he had other plans for those fights, or wanted those fights to take place on other networks because he had plans to take those fighters elsewhere, which is exactly what happened. And Al took those fighters. There was pretty much nothing that Oscar couldn't do because they were not signed exclusively to him no more. Once kind of Al got all of his deals in place, he rolled out with those fighters. Took some big names with him. Took Earl Spence, took Deontay Wilder, Danny Garcia, Keith Thurman. I mean, Leo Santa Cruz, you name it. Yeah, I mean, whoever had a name over the years with PBC, those were basically Oscar's former fighters. And Al Heyman took them, and Oscar tried to sue everybody. He even tried to sue Richard Schaefer, who once again was part of that little circle within Golden Boy that was all conspiring against Oscar. He tried to sue everybody, and he was semi-successful because when Al Heyman left with those fighters, he still had to pay Oscar De La Hoya a substantial amount of money, which it said that they reached a settlement on, and it went just like that. But however, Heyman was still able to take those fighters, including Floyd Mayweather, right? But also on the flip side, Richard Schaefer also was sued, but he also got punished a little bit, and he wasn't allowed to do no sort of promotion for the next couple years after that was over. And so he had to sit down for a little bit, and also had to forfeit a lot of the stuff that he had invested with Golden Boy, like stock options and so on and so forth. And but Richard got back into the game. He's currently promoting now, and he's promoted quite a few fights. So he's because this is kind of ancient history now, but he's back in the game and pretty much promoting whenever he wants to, fight fans. So, and it was said even by Oscar himself, he took his eye off the ball. And the one fighter that stood in Oscar's corner during that time was Canelo Alvarez. Everybody else kind of rolled out with Al Heyman that had a name. But like I said, given Al Heyman's track record with Floyd, I mean, maybe that's what those fighters saw. But the one fighter that stood in his place was Canelo, and that held Golden Boy afloat for many years after that. I mean, so if you think about all of that, man, hey, this is just Oscar making the play, trying to get his fighters back home. And, of course, I don't think that this is going to happen. Those fighters are definitely going to stay loyal to Al Heyman, I believe. But you do got to wonder, is any of them thinking about the fact that, hey, we don't know when we're going to get our next paycheck? And Oscar's out here, he got a network deal, and he's talking about come on over there. But do you really want to be the fighter that turns his back on Al Heyman? Do you really want to be that guy? You will have to look at the landscape that Oscar De La Hoya has and say, who would be my next 2 or 3 fights? You know what I mean? And can Oscar really provide that? And then you look at Al Heyman and his stable and say, hey, once Al get his operation up and running, well, could he provide that? And you'll look at the names in which he got. So, I mean, you do got to wonder, is any of the fighters thinking in that fashion? But I just really wouldn't want to be the fighter that turned their back on Al Heyman. Thumbs up on the way out if you didn't hit it on the way in. Share, rock the bells, man. Catch up with y'all in the next live stream, man. Going to be interested. We'll talk more about this and other boxing topics. To the next video, fam. Peace out.